Well, joining us now to talk about the results as reported in HSBC's Emerging Market Index is Peter Wong. Peter is HSBC's Asia-Pacific Chief Executive. Peter, thanks for coming in. Well, you know, the Thai economy remains resilient, but we are seeing manufacturing drop back. Should we be worried?
Well, first of all, I want to say that the HSBC Emerging Markets Index is a single indicator that tracks the economic activity of the emerging markets.
You take various PMI reports from all these countries and really aggregate them, don't you?
Yeah, it's 14 emerging markets. About 5,000 companies participate in the survey. And in the first quarter, the emerging markets index was 57.4, and the second quarter is 55.8. And it slips a bit, but a score above 50 still means that economic expansion.
Yeah.
And I think the important thing is about the BRICS country, which is more about India and China. As far as India and China is concerned, the trade going on between India and China is actually in 2003, the trade was just about 12 billion. Last year, it was 45 billion. Now it's going to be, this year it's going to be 60 billion. So the China manufacturing economy has dropped a bit because of what's happening in Europe, but India has actually come up a bit. So, and Brazil also down a bit, but Russia has come up also.
Yeah. Walk us through this, though. I mean, you see manufacturing drop back. Does that mean that you're going to be lowering your growth forecast for these countries?
Well, not really. In China, the GDP is still going to be 10%. India is going to be above 8.8%. Brazil is still going to be above 7%, and Russia is going to be above 4%. So we don't see a double dip in the globally, and we still think that the economy is going to hold.
Right. With that in mind, I mean, how much has that European sovereign debt crisis played out in these numbers?
Well, I think that the sovereign debt crisis, what it does is that sort of like it weakened the euro, and therefore it has an impact on the United States. In terms of the export of the United States, and therefore it drags down the economy a bit, and therefore and then it will affect Asia. So I think the manufacturing sector will still continue to be weaken a bit. But the service sector is going to continue to grow. And
that's the point, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, these economies, some of them anyway, are maturing, aren't they? So they need to develop the domestic demand side of things, and that's what we're seeing.
Yeah, that's correct. And if we can see what's happening in Asia-Pacific is that the intra-regional trade has actually come up substantially. And China is the main buyer, and all the countries in Asia-Pacific is running a deficit against China. So if China continues to buy, continue to spend, I think, and also India continue to grow, I think they'll be fine.
Right, but a double dip is out of the question now, according to you. But what happens if we do see further weakness for the Europeans, more weakness in the States as well?
Yeah, what's happening is that we see that the intra-regional trade is growing.
That's what's going to be supportive then, essentially, is what you're saying.
That's correct. And also the service sector is growing because the countries in Asia-Pacific, the domestic demand is growing, the consumption is growing, and therefore it will continue to boost the trade. Any
headwinds other than Europe?
Well, I think that the headwinds is probably going to be a little bit more inflation in Asia, and that's going to be a bit of a concern. But then the thing is that a little bit of inflation now, it's better. So, well, I hope that it's not going to be Europe is not going to have a real problem in terms of the various countries.
But we're in interesting times, aren't we? I mean, this is a reshaping of the global landscape, economically speaking, at least.
Yeah. That's correct, because the wealth is moving from west to east, and what's going to happen is that we're going to have a war for talent in Asia Pacific, and probably the price for the salaries will go up, and then it will boost domestic demand.
Which is the hope in China, at least.
That's correct. Yes.
And do we see the same thing happening in India as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. I was just in India not too long ago, and also the property prices has come up substantially. And so as far as the BRICS countries are concerned, India and Russia are actually growing, while China and Brazil actually slipped a bit.
Peter Wong, thank you so much for coming on the program. That is Peter Wong. He's from HSBC Asia Pacific Chief Executive.